Howdy, howdy, naughty here. And I noticed that my previous little experiment did in fact end up doing quite well. So as I'm sure some of you know, I ended up asking around and seeing what sorts of comics you would like for me to review next. One friend of mine requested Olympus. Now before we continue, a critique is defined as a detailed analysis and assessment of something, or if you prefer the verb, evaluate in a detailed and analytical way. A critique is by no means inherently negative nor positive, and I simply wished to define this before I got started. The way this will work is I will say a few broad thoughts first, delve into detail each episode. I only could go through 10, and afterwards delve into what exactly I think the beginning did wrong and how it could have done certain aspects better, because I don't want people to fail. By nature, I simply want everyone to do the best that they can and improve where they need to. In my opinion, I think Olympus, while naturally it's overrated, as is the nature of things that are typically popular, I would also say that it might be a touch overhated based on the first 10 episodes, at least. There are of course some things that I think it did not do very well in general. However, I did notice there were a couple of things that, I won't lie, I did enjoy. I suppose I will best be going to the episodes now. And to keep this simple, I'm going to read my notes and elaborate based on what my notes say. For my notes, for episode 1, I wrote down episode 1 is super boring. The art style is mediocre. It establishes that there's a party, Minth is a bitch, Hades is a cuck, and Hera and Zeus are in a loving relationship. Now, I request you put down your pitchforks and torches. I know the art style is quite popular, however, I find it to be, honestly, kind of lazy. There have been some inconsistencies throughout the 10 episodes that make me retain this opinion, and in my opinion, I think all Miss Smythe has to do in order to improve is simply take more care into her art. Now, I'm going to have the benefit of the doubt, and I will hope that she took care of things and did better in the future. However, as of now, the art style is, I appreciate the minimalism. However, it is quite lacking in a lot of regards. Characters' proportions are off, or they're inconsistent, certain colors. So, my biggest issue is probably the fact that you color-coded characters, which means if colors are inconsistent or if they're similar to one another, then unfortunately, characters may easily get confused, even if the style of each character or the look might be a bit different. And I did, of course, take a couple of screenshots. Despite my notes, I also did not put down the fact that there was already a bit of a dialogue problem. Although, unfortunately, I had not delved into it quite in detail because I was just chalking it up to episode 1. Up next... Oh, shoot. Sorry, no screenshots for episode 1. It simply didn't have much that was egregious or special. I'm sorry. Now for episode 2. Episode 2 is also boring. It establishes that Persephone and Hades both dislike going to parties. It involved 3 images that add nothing to the scene. The audience knows this party, and if the 3 images were removed, nothing would change. And I should be putting up a screenshot demonstrating these images now, or at least what I could fit on my phone screen. I didn't want to take too many screenshots. And I call them needless because they don't establish or add anything. They don't feature much. I think they really could have been removed and nothing would change. Up next, I should be showing a screenshot for Bad Joke comes right after. Ah yes, this. So Hades up to this point has been shown to be a bit more, if I recall correctly, proper, for lack of a better term. And Zeus and Poseidon at this point are poking at him. I forget the exact conversation as I've been reading the 10 episodes over the course of some days. However, the screenshot I should be showing now goes, Hades is responding, "Can you please not talk about my balls or my ass for that matter?" And then Zeus mockingly repeats, "Can you please not talk about my balls or my ass for that matter?" The reason I have an issue with this joke is it doesn't play into Hades' character, and if it does, then Hades' character is inconsistent. In my opinion, it would have been better if he said, "Can you please not talk about my testicular region or my posterior for that matter?" For at that point, there is something to make fun of. Oh my goodness, Hades talks proper. At least that's something I would take into account. Episode 2 is, I don't know if Lore Olympus is Miss Smythe's first comic. If it is, then I can definitely understand. I simply request in the meantime for all artists, comic book writers, and upcoming story people to please keep dialogue in mind. A lot of people forego proper dialogue for simply writing what they want, and while that makes things easy, that doesn't make things great. Dialogue is important. It helps establish what a character says and how they say it. And now for episode 3. For my notes for episode 3, they were short. I put down episode 3 has a dialogue issue. I suspect the whole series had this, but it's the worst here. Hades acts out of character, and the text messages just aren't natural. I'm going to show the out of character portion I'm mentioning here first. Hades saying, "Honestly, I think she puts..." Sorry. "Honestly, I think she puts Aphrodite to shame." The reason I list this as out of character is because up to this point, Hades, if I recall, had been shown as quite proper, mature, and yet here he is sort of gleaming at, kinda creepily, at a woman he knows nothing about. And that's... I'm not sure. Looking back, I'm not sure I would say exactly that it's out of character, but I would definitely have recommended not foregoing the drink, because if you gave Hades a single drink, that would remedy a lot of these issues, because at this party there's alcohol, naturally, as they're Greek, and so a single drink would be all it takes, but he made a point. He's not going to drink. And I mentioned the text messages aren't natural. I'm going to show a screenshot here of these texts. "What's wrong, mummykins? Party no fun," from Eros, because Aphrodite sent some sort of gift that I don't think we saw. Aphrodite responds, "Get over here." Eros says, "No can do. This orgy isn't going to coordinate itself. I wore a really cute polo shirt." The salmon pink one, "Yes, I'm the cutest. I love that one. Polo shirts aside, I still need you to get your butt here." The reason I marked these texts as unnatural is simply because people don't talk this way to one another. especially not a mother and son. I mean, it's kind of creepy that you are comfortably talking to your mom about being part of an orgy, in my opinion. Up next is going to be episode 4, and my notes are episode 4 doesn't have anything egregious. It's kinda meh. It establishes that Hades will try talking to Persephone, who he lusts for. Eros drugs her and establishes that he'll do whatever Aphrodite says without question. Naturally, I don't have much in terms of thoughts. Nothing too egregious, nothing too great. The episode is pretty middle of the road. So, on to episode 5 we go. Oh, my notes are a little harsh. Episode 5 sucks. Eros questions Aphrodite after drugging Persephone, who he suddenly thinks is a cinnamon roll. Eros calls Aphrodite's poor plan out, but because it shows she, quote, doesn't see the good in people, unquote, instead of calling out that it's just a flat-out bad plan. Reminder, her plan was to put Persephone in Hades' car so that Hades could see Persephone make bad decisions, and so that sober Persephone could think Hades is a creep. Hades, upon seeing a stranger in his car, passed out and drugged, takes the woman to his home instead of to a hospital or somewhere less creepy. It ends with Persephone sleeping in Hades' home. Her biggest concern is her mother finding out. Hades reassures her that she won't. And at this point, if I have not already shown screenshots, I'm going to go ahead and show them now. My big issue with some of these, I'm going to show the first one, personification of a friggin' cinnamon roll, an adorable pink cinnamon roll. And then my next screenshot, listen, and it's not very respectful. The reason I wrote pardon on the screenshot is because I was not aware you had thought of respect when you drugged Persephone. I don't think that is very respectful, and I don't think now is the time to question your mother. I'll delve into that in just a moment. The next screenshot. Mom, you seem to have such a distorted view of people these days. Naturally, I wrote down, no, the plan is super dumb. I had already said the plan, so I won't reiterate. However, my big issue with this portion is the fact that Eros is suddenly questioning Aphrodite. Now, I wouldn't always have an issue with this, except for the fact that he had already gone beyond the point of no return when he had drugged and kidnapped Persephone. If he had questioned Aphrodite before doing so, the scene would be much better because it would show that Eros is a more compassionate person and someone who occasionally questions when his mom is more rocky morally. And for my final screenshot, I'm going to put you down for a sec, okay? The reason I wrote what here is because it was at this point Persephone in her drugged state was reaching out for Hades, and Hades is flustered. Like, okay, I understand Hades is taking care of a much younger woman who he absolutely has feelings for, which issues of its own. However, my big problem is I don't like to call things problematic if I don't have to. However, this is simply a little problematic. I'm not too sure what I would have done differently, if I'm going to be honest. I don't really have a whole lot I can propose different. However, I would have probably taken a look at the storyboarding and screenwriting for the scene and maybe thought of a couple other scenarios. That way it looked a little less creepy. And now, let's see. According to my notes, and from what I can remember, episode 6 was a mixed bag. Outside of the inappropriate emotion shown by Persephone, for context, she's being given a garden and is happy, even happy as she goes on, but her face suggests horrified. I didn't mind the dream sequence. It did a serviceable job of establishing why Persephone would not want to go back to Demeter, i.e. controlling mom. I'm not a big fan of her leaving, turning into exploring, but I'd let it slide if not for the fact that she just lets a dog who's been growling go to and sniff her neck. I'm going to keep part of the portion for episode 6 short so that I can get to my dog PSA. The screenshot I should be showing is going to demonstrate the wrong emotion. It's Persephone being given by a poorly colored Demeter a garden, a greenhouse. And I put down wrong emotion because if you look closely, you'll notice that it's not a face of happy or a nervous smile even. It's a face of horror. I would chalk this up to foreshadowing and remove this portion if not for the fact that I've actually seen similar mistakes with emotion and the facial structure be made throughout. So my best recommendation here would probably be to, if you want to foreshadow, demonstrate a nervous smile, some stress lines around the eyes, but still something a bit nervous and grateful for the mouth. Perhaps just a full mouth with a curved tip for the lip. Doing that would do wonders for the facial aspects of storytelling. And now I'm going to demonstrate the next screenshot, which is Persephone letting Cerberus, a dog which has been growling and baring his teeth, approach and sniff her neck. Now, for those of you who don't know, if a dog wants to kill you, most commonly, where they go is your neck. And I just want to say, do not do this. No matter how good you think you are with dogs, never do this, please. What you want to do is you want to back away slowly, avoid eye contact, and talk with a soft, low tone of voice. If you make it higher pitched, you can also show to the dog that you are submissive and not going to harm it. This may not always work, however it is much better than staying still and allowing a dog that is hostile, aggressive, to go to your neck. Okay, with that out of the way, I shall move on with my thoughts towards episode 7. My notes say, let's see, episode 7 was nothing special. Okay, I guess. Outside of Cerberus in the previous episode not showing to do what he does in the beginning here. If not for Persephone acting the way she does. She woke up in the home of a man she knows nothing about, but she's super nonchalant about it. Also, never do what the comic shows Persephone doing. If a dog growls at you, never let it get to your neck, even if you're fantastic with dogs. Sorry about that. It looks like in my notes I was still salty about the previous episode. I'm going to go ahead and show some screenshots here. The first screenshot I'm showing is what seems to be a transformed single-headed Cerberus with an extended maw. This could have been a cool thing to show in the previous episode. However, we didn't even get to see the tongue behind Persephone. I think this may be a retcon, because that's not what happened. Oh, right, yeah, and this is why I said don't do what Persephone does. Hades separates Cerberus from Persephone, but she's like, I got this, fam. And she approaches Cerberus and just starts scratching him all over his neck. Now, while dogs do appreciate this, one who is hostile towards you will not. In the screenshot, there's a reason I put don't do this IRL, you don't wait for this. In my opinion, if you have something up your sleeve and you can prevent a dog from being hostile and aggressive, do it right away. Do not wait to do that. Let's see. Oh, I remember why I got this screenshot now. This is part of why I say she's super nonchalant. All she remembers is Eros knocked her out and put her in Hades' car. And yet, she's here asking him if he has something to warm her up. I'm confused about why someone would want something like that from someone who possibly had something to do with her kidnapping. And the next screenshot emphasizes this, in my opinion. Hades asks her if she likes coffee, and her response is lying and saying sure, possibly so that she can have his coffee and possibly some little something. She woke up after being drugged in this man's home, yet she's not panicked, she's not worried. Is this just a Tuesday for her? How often is she drugged? In my opinion, this does a horrible demonstration of what her character is, unless her character is absolutely mindless and someone that doesn't care about anything around, when she clearly does, as has been established in previous episodes and will be established in the future. In my opinion, I think this portion of the story should have been entirely rewritten. And it doesn't even have to go too differently. It can at least start off with her being confronted by Cerberus while she's trying to escape, and having a panic attack as Cerberus approaches. Oh my goodness, I woke up in a strange home I've never been in before, and yet this dog won't let me leave. In fact, he's approaching, he's going to... and just leave it at that. And then have Hades swoop in, be the hero, calm her down, and let her know what happened. That would have been much better at demonstrating Hades' character as a good person, and Persephone as a person. I'm sorry, I'm losing my cool. Fenrock Arena was definitely better. I miss it already. Up next... oh, my notes for episode 8. Episode 8 was it wasn't special in either direction. The biggest things of note were the dialogue issues and the fact Hades took a stranger that was knocked out in his car into his home instead of a hospital station, or attempting to wake her up and find out where she lived. Now, I'm going to go ahead and show the first screenshot. 'Cause you and your brothers are known for your many sordid affairs. Or I guess affairs. There are some typos throughout the story. I'm not going to knock them, but if they're in my screenshots, we can get a little giggle out of them. Now, the reason I screenshot this in the first place is because of two problems. Hades is known for sordid affairs. Hades was like the one chill brother in myth. He didn't do much in terms of affairs, at least as far as I'm aware. I mean, sure, this is artist's interpretation, this is the artist's story, but she has not done a very good job of showing Hades being some playboy outside of being cucked by Minth. Now, my second problem is just an exacerbation of the dialogue issue. This is a common issue, it seems, in which an artist, director, comic book writer doesn't really care about how their character speaks or what they say. Your many sordid affairs, that's something that should be said by people like Hades, who are more proper, prim, posh. While Persephone is definitely of the upper class variety of things, she's been shown to be much more laid back, chill, nonchalant, and so your many hookups would probably be much more fitting for the dialogue. It's not really personalized to the character. The next screenshot that I'm going to show is Hades carrying Persephone, a bit of a flashback if you will. You were dead to the world. And, oh, sorry, typo on my part. And you tack her to your home? Go ahead, giggle at the typo. Oh no, I just made fun of Miss Smythe for this. In my defense, I did this one at 5 a.m., so do forgive me. On to the subject here. My issue remains the fact that he had no better ideas. He couldn't try to wake her up. I'm not sure he knew she was drugged, but he found her in the back of his car when he parked at his home. Most people would panic a little bit, maybe wake the person up, find out what they're doing in the back of their car, not, oh, I don't know, unbuckle them, walk her into your home and tuck her in nighty-night, maybe with a glass of warm milk. In my opinion, that scene could have gone much better. Now, it's a little scattered, I know I'm referring to when he originally found her. The scene could have gone much better if Hades was a bit more panicked and jostled. Oh my goodness, a strange, much younger woman that I had just called beautiful is in the back of my car? Gasp. What do I do? Sort of situation. Instead, this is forced romance, and Hades has to be a kind-hearted hero. I don't have an issue with him being a kind-hearted hero, but the way that it's executed here is more than problematic. On to my notes for episode 9. Episode 9 was a mixed bag. I liked the card, but I did not like the improper response or the improper dog safety and handling. The first screenshot I'm going to show is actually something I enjoyed. Unironically, I enjoyed this. Sources support this. Good detail, because contact hit hands to the ground twice. I did some research. I looked into it this morning, and as far as I'm aware, I saw a few sources saying that, yeah, no, this is something people can do. So, good on you. Absolutely. You did a little extra work and you looked into some details that are fun. Now, unfortunately, I have to move on to my next screenshot. My mother says that making things yourself builds character. And Hades follows with, I have enough character for multiple lifetimes, in a joking manner. Now, I say this is an improper response, maybe because I'm being nitpicky, but all you have to do is add then. Then I have enough character for multiple lifetimes. Instead, it's like, when it's like this, it's kind of jarring. And while you can use context clues to figure out what he's referring to, it's still a bit strange. Because it's not quite right. It's a bit off. And for the final screenshot is another territorial, aggressive dog growling at Persephone. She doesn't let it approach her neck, but she does try to pet it. Don't do that, please. Oh, for the love of whomever you believe in above, don't do it. Small dogs are much more bitey. And oh, I'm sorry about that. And now we are almost done. My thoughts on episode 10. My initial thoughts. Episode 10 was pretty But while Hades leaves the underworld, he goes through a security guard, this poor bro's arm. Upon second viewing, I think that might be a woman. Tough to tell. It doesn't matter. Either way, I'm going to show the screenshot now if I'm not already. And aspects of this arm are backwards when they shouldn't be. I feel like the artist would do better if she practiced this pose a little bit. Did she not look at this and think, oh, that hand's a little too big, oh, that elbow's a little backwards, oh, that forearm's kind of broken? Like, there are a few things wrong with this. Don't even get me started on the form of this salute. And oh, right, I'm sure you want a synopsis on episode 10. I will admit I've been lacking on the general summaries of most of these episodes because after a while it got tiresome to read this, and I had simply forgotten because either the plot was kind of boring or there were sections in which it was kind of bad. Now, episode 10, essentially Hades, Persephone getting along. Hades has a bunch of cars, Persephone wants to drive one, and they're driving in the first place because Zeus is summoning Hades to a brunch, a family meeting, etc. and so forth. And I'll just say those are my thoughts on episode 10. Overall, Lore Olympus, so far, at the very least, it has some work to do. Now granted, these are the first 10 episodes out of something close to 300. So I'm going to give Lore Olympus the benefit of the doubt and hope that it improved. And if people really want me to continue, oh goodness, it'll be a struggle, but I can continue. Now, I'm going to go ahead and give my general thoughts, and from there, I will be sure to end things off so that I don't have you for too much longer. Overall, Lore Olympus isn't bad. Outside of everything I've said earlier, it's not horrible, but it's definitely not good. I would say if I had to rate it on a scale of 1 to 100, at this moment in time, I'd give it a 60%. It's passing, it's barely passing though, by the skin of its teeth. And I should probably talk about some of the things I liked. Now, I did not, goodness, how do I say this? The dynamics between Hades and Persephone were a little cute. Now, you have to ignore a lot. And when I say a lot, I mean you have to ignore so much in order to agree with that statement. But if you put their dynamic in a vacuum, you ignore the dialogue problems, you ignore the various visual issues, there's something to their dynamic. And that's something, at the very least. Overall, Lore Olympus has some work to do. I won't tell you to give it a read, as it was a chore for me to read, but I won't stop you if you say that you read it in front of me. Now, with everything said and done, and all situations handled, I'd like to wish you a wonderful rest of your night, and I hope you sleep well.